Growing up, I never really fit so neatly into a box. As you can see from this photo, I kind of look lost and a little confused. But I had a diverse array of interests and was somewhat of an anomaly within my own family and my community. Around the age of 12, I would develop a strong passion for music and pick up the violin. As a result, I'll be introduced to classical music, which seemed to be like a foreign genre to me at the time, because I grew up listening to artists such as Common, Jay-Z, and Tupac, which seemed to be a sharp contrast from classical music, or at least so I thought. So I would quickly find myself nudged between these two musical soundscapes that seemed to be polar opposites from each other. Furthermore, hip-hop and classical music are often accompanied by a hefty load of stereotypes. People make the misguided assumption that hip-hop is all about violence, materialism, sex, and drugs. On the other side, people will assume that classical music is all elitist, elegant, or serious. When in fact, Mozart wrote a piece entitled Leck mich im Arsch, which translates to kiss my ass. Now, how serious can that be? And on top of all that, there's undoubtedly strong racial and socioeconomic associations between these two genres. So as a listener of both hip-hop and classical music, I felt as if I had to sacrifice my identity to fit in both of these realms. This double consciousness was especially prevalent in certain situations, such as being the only black kid in my youth orchestra. And it wasn't until I got to college that I realized I could simultaneously inhabit both of these realms. I will also discover that there are quite a few parallels and connections that could be made between these two genres. Allow me to elaborate. I believe that hip-hop and classical music have these hidden layers of complexity that require effort to decipher. One does not simply listen to a Beethoven symphony or a Kendrick Lamar album for the first time knowing exactly what they're trying to musically or lyrically convey. The music by these artists can be interpreted in a plethora of ways, and they are often regarded as geniuses in their communities. Additionally, they are often highly honored and respected within by their contemporaries. I also believe that hip-hop and classical music can often be very introspective and highly socially conscious. For instance, in the song Changes by Tupac, he raps about being a product of a rigged system. He discusses the harsh realities of living in a war zone, struggling to survive while under constant surveillance by authorities just because of the color of his skin. The famous Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich composed his Fifth Symphony during the height of Stalin's repressive regime. From the apathetic, mournful violin melody in the first movement to the ironically patriotic, boisterous nature of the last movement, you can really get a sense of the anxiety and pressure that the composer must have felt, not knowing if he was going to survive another day. But perhaps the most interesting parallel that I was able to find between the two is the practice of recycling pre-existing musical material. In hip-hop, this is known as sampling. And in classical music, this is known as a musical quotation. And this can be somewhat of a controversial practice, but here's what Stravinsky has to say about it. Lesser artists borrow, great artists steal. Now, I don't believe Stravinsky is endorsing plagiarism, saying we should just outright steal. But I do believe he is saying that it's okay to use what is already out there as a tool to create something new. In this case, new music. So I've compiled a few samples for you guys that I'd like you all to hear. The first one is Haktikva, and it's the Israeli national anthem. As you listen, try to hum this melody to yourself. Now, keeping that melody in your head, listen to this song by the hip-hop artist Anderson .Paak.
Y'all niggas got me hot.
Did you hear it? Kind of sweet, huh? Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with this French children's song. Now, listen to what Gustav Mahler does with it. He has a minor twist. So kind of a morbid version of Frere Jacques, right? So there are artists out there who have actually bridged the gap between these two genres. Artists such as Daniel Bernard Romain and Black Violin have been pioneers in conducting this practice. The youth orchestra that I direct, Urban Strings Columbus, pictured above, actually had the privilege of playing with Black Violin. And it was a truly inspiring experience for them and myself. Now, I don't want to conclude this talk by saying that, oh, we actually all desire the same things, that we should just get in a circle, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya, because that just wouldn't be reality. I do believe that we can find common ground musically in other facets of life, but I also believe that we should be able to respect and embrace our own differences. We didn't all grow up in the same community. We didn't all eat the same food. And we didn't all listen to the same music. And we shouldn't have to sacrifice our identity to meet some type of false standard. But I believe that we can reconcile our differences and just open up our ears a little bit more, then we can truly live in greater harmony. And now to show you how these two worlds can collide, I will be with my string quintet performing a piece that I wrote entitled Triumph.